I'm a ghost.
Oh my god, a ghost! I'm the Golden Ghost Cops!
Ghost Cops.
Radio Free Innsmouth, episode 402, and I have elected to cover another one of my favorite bands, one that I've been saving for a while. I was planning on covering them for either episode 420.
Well, that just happened.
Or one of the world-famous Halloween episodes.
Boo! Haunted house!
Because not only is the band in question one of the greatest doom metal bands of all time, they've also been one of my go-to Halloween bands since the mid-2000s. We're talking, of course, about Witchfinder General, who are also my personal favorite new wave of British heavy metal band. It's my go-to from that whole scene. And it's not just me. Witchfinder General has been a massively important band for a whole lot of people. Like, pretty much every doom metal band that matters will espouse to you the greatness of Witchfinder General. You think of bands like Reverend Bizarre, Electric Wizard, Cathedral. They all make explicit references to Witchfinder General in their music. And even people outside of the normal metal sphere, a lot of people you wouldn't expect are very into Witchfinder General. I'm thinking of guys like James Rolfe.
This kind of shit is the reason the mute button was invented. Yeah, so turn the sound off, put on some Witchfinder General, and while you're at it, put on a different fucking game.
Wow, what an asshole.
And perhaps most importantly for me, and probably the main reason why I got so heavily into Witchfinder General, a decent amount of extreme metal bands have cited them as a pretty major influence. My first introduction to Witchfinder General was actually hearing Moonblood cover them on their 12th rehearsal tape from 1998. Now, obviously the vocals on that are a little bit out of the ordinary compared to what Moonblood usually does, but the riffs underneath, if you didn't know that was a cover and the guy was screaming instead of singing over it, I'm willing to bet that many of you would just assume that's another Moonblood original song. So deep was the new wave of British heavy metal, and specifically Witchfinder General influence on Moonblood's sound. But the extreme metal band that really got me to pay attention to Witchfinder General came out a little bit later, talking about Acid Witch, which are like my other go-to Halloween band. And Acid Witch has been a lot of things over the years, particularly since their third album. They've actually been working in kind of a macabre sort of territory, heavily parody driven, doing a lot of singing in character, evil twisting of nursery rhymes sort of thing. But the Acid Witch that I really fell in love with was in their earliest incarnation, when they were very much a heavily new wave of British heavy metal influenced old school death metal band on their first couple albums. And it's when listening to those you realize, apart from the growling vocals and the heavier distortion, there's really not that much of a difference between classic Witchfinder General and what Acid Witch was doing, outside of aesthetic concerns, whether it be during the more driving riffs, that are very close to something Witchfinder General might do along the lines of or the slower, more dense and atmospheric Acid Witch riffs, which are very similar in character to the slower, more atmospheric riffs you hear in Witchfinder General almost 30 years earlier. But it's not just the particular melodic character of certain Witchfinder General riffs that were influential on more extreme forms of metal. It's the way that the songs themselves were put together. Because far from being the amateurish Black Sabbath knockoff that they're often derided as, Witchfinder General actually took what Black Sabbath was doing, song structure-wise, and expanded on it in a way that directly led to a lot of modern, more extreme metal song construction. Of all people in the world, surprisingly,
Brett Stevens,
a man not very well known for his love of old school heavy metal, explains it best when he mentions how a typical Witchfinder General song will feature an elaborate introduction and a main verse-chorus pair of themes that change after the song transitions from its starting phase to its ending phase. There's this big epic turnaround that transcends normal pop music structure towards more of a folkish or even neoclassical structure. Check it out. Like this right here, this is a big, meaty Witchfinder General style introductory riff that becomes the verse riff of the song. And it's hyper fucking catchy, and it really fits with the sermon-like delivery of the lyrics. That's the verse part of the pair. Here's the chorus part of the verse-chorus pair mentioned earlier. And again, it's a high-quality, catchy, heavy metal sort of chorus. But then they come out of the chorus not back to the verse, but to this entirely new section of music. The song advances like a narrative story. This is almost like an entirely new verse-chorus pair that has come out, where we're in the verse right now. Then you could call this part right here kind of the chorus part of the verse-chorus pair, sort of a call and response thing. Also a nice little harmonic guitar layering going on. But then there's another big shift into an entirely new section of riffs that I guarantee Lee Dorian from Cathedral is getting a giant boner over when he first heard it. And they kind of use it as a jam riff to play guitar solos over, but then there's yet another big, epic, heavy turnaround, utilizing the same sort of stop-start action from that riff set that happened before the jam section. It's also worth pointing out how unique Zeeb Parks' vocals are here. Like, if you listen to this weird part, he'll do stuff like intentionally break his voice to create drama in the overall song narrative, as well as a nice vibrato there to take us back into the opening riff of the song. And this epic fucking closing where he hits the end of that chorus one last time for the fade out. It's very bardic sounding, one might almost say skaldic if they were a Scandinavian band. That sort of complex song structuring, as mentioned earlier, was building on all of the progressive rock tendencies of Black Sabbath, towards including more and more riffs and themes in each song. And I think that's the big reason why a lot of extreme metal bands are into what Witchfinder General was doing, along with their very occult and evil atmosphere and their penchant for rather graphic for the time depictions of the torturing of topless models on their album covers.
Oh my god!
If you're going to get into Witchfinder General, obviously you're going to need the two full-length albums from the 80s, but I'd say that the 1981 single and the 1982 EP they put out before those are just as important, both for historical reasons and also just because the songs on those releases are just as good as the ones on the albums. For 1981, it's hard to find any metal out there that was heavier than Witchfinder General's Burning a Sinner single, not just due to the subject matter, which is quite shocking for the time, but more so due to just the heavy, foggy, densely atmospheric nature of the guitar sound. Here's the chorus, which shows off even more so than their self-titled track, that kind of old-school English bardic folk music influence, with those expansive guitar riffs providing a platform for the sermonizing. But then, like a lot of Witchfinder General songs, they jump into a whole new section after that verse-chorus pair. In this case, it's another sort of jammy section with some very Tony Iommi-esque lead guitar playing. That's always appreciated. That then goes into a whole new, heavy kind of riffing wind-down section, which also feeds into that occult atmosphere. Like, forget just speaking of 1981, even today, these are some heavy, doomy-ass fucking riffs. Then there's a cool little proto-merciful Fate-esque transition that leads us back into that very anthemic sort of verse riff from earlier in the song. Burning a Sinner might not be as complex as the self-titled Witchfinder General song I played earlier, but it's got that same exploratory soul to it. The release they put out after the Burning a Sinner single, 1982's Soviet Invasion EP, might, at least in terms of sonic aesthetics and overall atmosphere, be my personal favorite Witchfinder General release. Because if you want some fucking dark doom, you're not going to get heavier in the title track on this album. It starts off with this very beautiful but also increasingly desiccated and apocalyptic sounding acoustic guitar section that then just crashes into some heavy fucking doom metal. The guitar sound on this release, if you ask me, is by far the best one these guys ever got, and it's to this day one of just the heaviest doom metal guitar sounds overall. Here's a little Iommi trick straight out of Sabbath. Little two-finger trill action, always appreciated, gives a very nihilistic sound. And the vocals here, very much Doomsday Prophet type shit. And as the lyrics get darker, so do the riffs, with this just heavy crashing wave of distortion, ironically interspersed with these little acoustic guitar flourishes. Whole lot of atmosphere in this one. Real epic length song, and because it's Witchfinder General, that means there's gonna be a big epic turnaround where they bring in entirely new themes for the song's second half, which leads off with this very driving sort of bass line to which is added some rather martial sounding drum rolls and a sneaky droning guitar riff that opens up into a much heavier, doomy sort of sound to provide a platform for, again, more great Tony Iommi-esque, psychedelic but not happy at all sounding soloing. Then when the vocals do come back in, it takes on a much more insistent, almost proto-thrash sort of character, shouting out these mantras over more doom metal chaos. Very evocative of the nuclear war feeling they were going for with this track. I've used the various riffs from this song as guitar warm-ups, going back almost as far as I can remember. I don't see too many people mention Soviet Invasion as a Witchfinder General classic very often, but it's up there, dude. This is important, early, heavy, apocalyptic metal shit. And the other two songs on this EP are great as well. Personal standout for me is R.I.P., which shows off a humorous little idiosyncrasy of a lot of the early new wave of British heavy metal shit, in that it purports to be a live song. But, yeah, it's fucking not. They just added crowd noise to a studio track.
I'm a trick.
Kind of a goofy little archive of the times. But that's obviously the studio guitar sound from the rest of the EP, and thank fuck for that, because, as mentioned earlier, I'm all about this heavy fucking guitar sound. My personal favorite one that they ever managed to pull off. And it works really fucking well on the very doomy, dense tracks like this one. Whether it be on the more atmospheric bits like the opener, or when it gets a little bit more driving and propulsive. I mean, this fucking riff right here, fucking monster. And the guitar sound is just perfect. They actually redid this song for the full-length album, and it's there you can kind of see the difference between this early era of Witchfinder General and the post-full-length album era.
Take it up, Keith.
The best way I can describe the difference between the two is the early song is very monochromatic and bleak. This one's a lot more colorful, particularly with the little guitar flourishes like that noise. And while I might prefer that more spare sound utilized on the EP version, the album version of the song is no slouch either, and it's a standout on that first full length. I'm a big fan of this ironically kind of happy sounding riff, but I'm an even bigger fan of the turnaround in this song that then jumps into some more real driving, grinding, heavy sort of riffs with interesting vocal patterns. He's almost kind of singing against the beat, kind of squeezing out these exaltations and the spaces between the notes. And then it all opens up into another glorious display of Tony Iommi-esque neo-psychedelia with the lead guitar. This album's got a lot of nice epic length tracks like R.I.P. and that self-titled song from the beginning of the episode. But my personal favorite on this song is actually one of the simpler, more energetic, kind of catchy ones entitled Free Country. It's got absolutely one of my favorite riffs of all time in it. That riff right there, that's the good fucking shit, dude.
That's what's most definitely out.
And the chorus riff is similarly well done, with old goofball singing songs about doing drugs, because it's fucking doom metal. Speaking of drugs, this fucking break right here, dude.
That's what's up.
Quality little fucking tempo shift into the solo section, and here you can see Phil Cope kind of coming into his own style as a lead guitar player, less Iommi-ish, more of his own sort of thing, with very strong melodies. And that sick break riff comes back after the solos, gotta fucking love that. Absolute fucking rager, as is the reintroduction of that sick riff from the beginning of the song. This riff is an elemental force for good. If you play it for one of your heavy metal friends and they don't get down to it, I don't know what to tell you, man. You just gotta hit them with the
Why should someone be gay?
Wow, what an asshole.
The 1983 follow-up to Witchfinder General's debut 1982 album Death Penalty, talking about Friends of Hell here, doesn't really seem to be as talked about as that classic first full-length, but if you ask me, it's as good as that album, if not even better. For starters, it's got its own version of that post-paranoid, very driving, catchy sort of song like Free Country, this time entitled Requiem for Youth. Like Free Country, it's got that real big riff at the beginning, but the way that they slam into the groove here, as the drums kick in, outdoes just about everything else from 1983 in terms of heaviness. And as they jump between that heavy verse riff and the chorus riffs, every time the chorus comes back around, you'll notice there's a slight variation to the way that the guitar phrases are put together. And of course, there's another nice sort of unfolding section, a bit of an epic turnaround, as is customary for Witchfinder General. It's one of those things that makes them so special amongst the crowd of new wave of British heavy metal bands. But in this song in particular, and on this album in general, those turnaround sections aren't as quite abrupt a gear shift as they were on the Death Penalty album. They're more smoothly done. Arguments could be made for enjoying either style more, but that is a very notable attribute of this album that's worth pointing out. My personal favorite song on this album, apart from the driving and grinding masterpiece that is Requiem for Youth, has got to be the self-titled track, Friends of Hell, which represents, I think, the highest level of musical development that Witchfinder General ever achieved. It comes in with this real lush, almost kind of shoegazy section. Early shoegazy for Witchfinder General. Then you got the increasingly intense drum pounding as we are dragged down to hell. It's savaged by this enormous fucking heavy riff that I'm sure the fellas in Acid Witch were big fans of. Also a big fan of the little lead guitar bit dancing over the top of it, very pagan altar. Then when it solidifies into the verse riff, you get this cyclical, winding, trance-inducing, twisted up sort of thing. And where a lot of Witchfinder General is very obviously influenced by Black Sabbath, these riffs almost seem to predict where Tony Iommi would end up taking Sabbath later on in the 80s. I don't know, kind of interesting. Speaking of interesting, the whole second half turnaround of this song goes full ambience, full doom, with some of the most morbid riffs they've ever written since the Soviet Invasion in EP. And then this part. Fuck, dude, everything about that's perfect. That little guitar melody, the vocal vibrato. Then they bring back that sort of rollicking feeling from earlier in the song. Everything starts collapsing in on itself, coming tumbling down to the depths of Tartarus. Fantastic fucking song. Fantastic fucking album. Again, it's another case of I don't want to spoil all the other crazy shit that goes on and the great songs in this album. Suffice to say, that 80s Witchfinder General discography is absolutely perfect. Non-stop bangers. And luckily, they didn't stick around long enough to get shitty like so many other bands did.
Wow, what an asshole.
And they most certainly did not come back after a quarter century of silence with a different vocalist and a different drummer and put out a inoffensive but rather average "We're Back" reunion type album. Thank fuck for that. That'd be too scary even for Halloween. Point is, Witchfinder General, absolutely fantastic band. Totally captures the autumnal spirit of the Samhain season. And hopefully I was able to convince you of that, or at least you now understand why I hold them in the level of high regard that I do. Anyways, thanks for listening, or watching, or whatever you did. Always appreciate that. Check back in next week for more true metal goodness. And I'll see you around.
Ghost Cops.
Well, it's about time you showed up. Are you okay? Yeah, there he is.
Oh shit. Ghost Cops.
I didn't do nothing. I didn't do nothing. I didn't do nothing.